Welcome to Jodie in Malibu. Today my guest is Fred Basten. Hi Fred.
Hi Jodie, I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I welcome you here. I mean, you have written so many books.
Well,
I can't remember them all, but I do remember reading Santa Monica. Was it History of Santa Monica? Or
that was my first book.
your first book. That's
Yeah.
the first one I read. But how did you get into writing, first of all?
I had an uncle growing up in Chicago who had the most wonderful job in the world. I envied him so much. He wrote a travel column for the Minneapolis newspaper, the Minneapolis St. Paul newspaper. All he did was travel the world and write stories and send them back. And I thought that was so glamorous. And I loved what he wrote, and I loved the places where he was, and I thought, I want to be a writer.
So that was it. You didn't like take journalism or anything like that?
Not really. I wrote for the high school newspaper and became editor-in-chief of that. And then when I went to college, I worked on the school newspaper. When I got out of college, I became a copywriter for some advertising agencies. But that was it. I've always been writing.
And what made you think of doing a book on Santa Monica?
I was kind of pressed into that. I was working for A&W Root Beer Company, which was headquartered in Santa Monica. I had been there for like 13 years, and by the early 70s, the company was sold and they were moving back to the East Coast, and I didn't want to go with them, and I thought, I've been collecting all these pictures on Santa Monica, historic pictures, for a long time, and Santa Monica's about to celebrate its 100th anniversary. So I put some things together, found a publisher, and called it Santa Monica Bay, the First 100 Years.
Wow.
And we couldn't keep it in the stores.
Oh, I know. It was all over the place.
Flying off the shelves, and after 2 weeks, it became the biggest selling regional pictorial history ever.
Wow.
And it's still in print after 30 some years, only I had to retitle it. I call it Santa Monica Bay Paradise by the Sea now.
So
and
it's still being sold?
It's still being sold. Originally it was all black and white. It's been updated many times, and now it's in full color. Barnes & Noble, Santa Monica store, tells me it's among its top 10 best-selling books every year.
Oh my gosh.
So,
boy, you lucked out with that one, because I know after that, then you went a little farther up and you did Beverly Hills.
I did Beverly Hills, and I finished that book in 3 months because the publisher was so high on it. She wanted to do a series of city books. Then she got in financial problems. I did the Beverly Hills book, and it came out fine. It's considered the definitive book on Beverly Hills.
Wow.
But I've wanted to update it because now it's 30 years have passed since I did that.
You'll have to do that. It just seems like you go from one book to another. I mean, you never stop.
I do.
And another book that I loved of yours was the Chateau Marmont.
That was such a fun book.
Really?
Yeah, I was put in contact with Raymond Sarlot, who was one of the owners of the hotel at the time. And that book, when it came out, it was in all the gossip papers and everything, because it talks about everybody.
Well, everybody hung out there.
Every star who was anybody, either on the way up or the way down, stayed there. And it's still the same.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Now it's a little more elegant. It was a little tacky in those days, but it was a hideaway hotel, and it was a secret place for the stars to stay until John Belushi died.
Right.
And that put it in the newspapers, and then everybody wanted to go into the hotel. But you can't name a star who hasn't stayed there at one time.
No, you can't.
From Garbo to Marilyn Monroe to Judy Garland, all the big names. And
all the big names.
Then when the strip started going downhill, the hotel started going downhill in the 60s, and all the music people stayed there. So Jim Morrison and anybody you want to name there from that time.
Well, I hear that if you go there in the bar, that you see everybody. I mean, it's still a hangout for all the young stars today.
Oh, that's a big place, Bar Marmont.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
We must go.
We must go. But I loved doing that book because I had all the registration cards for every star that stayed there. And here are these real cards that they had signed, room numbers, what they paid for the rooms, all of that. And I got to call them all, the ones who were still living.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and talk to them, and they gave me their stories about what was going on when they were staying there.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
it was like Shelley Winters went after her husband, Tony Francios, at the time. That's where she went after him with a knife.
Really?
Yeah, because she caught him with somebody else in one of the rooms.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's pretty juicy.
I totally forgot that she was married to him.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. That book is.
I guess she's been married to many.
Yeah. No, she was great.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Wow, that's an interesting book. And then, I mean, you did Porn King, John Holmes.
Yes.
For anybody who doesn't know who John Holmes is, which I think they do, I believe he was, 13 and a half inches?
Well, I didn't have the chance to measure it.
You forgot your stick? I mean, what I had read is he was born abnormal. I mean, this was...
Well, they said he had a third leg when he was born.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's what the doctors said.
Jeez.
But I really didn't know who he was. I mean, I'd heard of him. I knew he made porn movies. I knew he was connected with the Wonderland murders.
Right.
And that he had been in jail. Not that he was being charged, but he wouldn't talk. And that's why they kept him in jail so long. And that he had started to write a book when he was in jail with a woman. That didn't work out. So when he got out, he had his managers call every literary agency in Los Angeles and asked if they had a writer who would want to work with him. My agent picked me for some reason, so I went to a meeting. It was in a huge room at Century City.
Do you know why he picked you?
Yes.
Why?
Because he said I was the only person there he thought he could trust.
Really?
And trust was a big thing with him.
Yeah.
Because he'd been screwed over so many times. But we got together at least twice a week up on the top floor at the Holiday Inn at Sunset in the 405 freeway.
Right.
And during the day, we sat in the bar area. It was totally empty up there at that time. I had my tape recorder. I taped everything he said, and that went on for like a year and a half.
Really?
Yeah. And then I put his story together.
Now, did you know him when he was dying?
Yes. In fact, I went to the Veterans Administration Hospital out in the valley and saw him. And that was like a week before